Hello, I'm Dr. Dawn Ewing. I'm the Executive Director of the International Academy of Biological Dentistry and Medicine. And today I have somebody that everybody knows, at least if you're involved with us, you do. It's our own Charlie Brown. And Charlie is going to talk to us today about the history of the amalgam wars, because you guys need to realize that we are maybe nearing the end. That's maybe a hopeful thought. But Charlie, will you kind of fill us in on the amalgam wars?
Sure, and if we're not near the end, but we've certainly climbed the highest mountain. We're on the way down. I mean, the momentum is all with us, Dawn. Everybody knows amalgam is going to be history, and the pro-mercury dentists and their trade association is still fighting rearguard actions, but once the FDA, and you and I are going to talk about that, but once this FDA news broke in late September, it just changed the dynamic in the U.S., where it's already been changed in Europe, across Asia, across Africa, and the Americas. So it's a little later in coming, but it's just, we really salute FDA for acting so boldly. So yes, we fought these amalgam wars. I've been in it the last quarter century. Many of the people watching this have been in it longer than that, some less. But yours is a wonderful organization of dentists and physicians, dental hygienists, chiropractors, men and women who are health professionals and who are committed to addressing the health of the whole body, and committed to doing it in toxic-free and synergistic, holistic ways, biological ways, that as your name says.
So, Charlie, what actually got you started?
What got me started, Don, was I am a lawyer, as you know, and I was asked to represent dentists around the country before dental boards. Back in those days, as you well know, and you were a member of a dental board, and that's a wonderful part of your resume. You just have such a multifaceted resume as a hygienist, as a naturopathic doctor, as the leader of this association, and in your youth, if you will, you were a member of the Texas Dental Board. I'll tell everyone that, and it's great. Yeah. But these dental boards, not because of you at all, but because of the dentist majorities, the pro-ADA majorities, were taking dental licenses, or threatening to, sometimes they did, for dentists who were speaking out, who were telling the truth. So Jim Turner and I was in Jim Turner's firm then, Swanken and Turner, represented dentists in up to 15 states, certainly, fighting these dental boards. And as my wife had strongly recommended to me, she is a communications lawyer, use the First Amendment. And that's what we did. We said, hey, this is truthful. This is free speech. We have a First Amendment. You are a state agency. You can't do this. And we won cases after cases, whether it was in California and Arizona in the West, and across into Florida and Minnesota, and into Pennsylvania's dental board, and Connecticut, and just state after Iowa, state after state. Oregon, we just demolished the gag rule, and the dental boards gave up enforcing it, and dentists became free to advertise, advocate, and advise mercury-free dentistry, and that changed the whole dynamic. Once the marketplace could work and dentists could speak up, of course, there was a flood of mercury-free dentistry, a much greater consumer awareness. We worked on that too, and the dynamic started shifting, with the dental boards basically being taken out of the game. They were no longer a player in restricting mercury-free dentistry. That was the start.
Yes, and to explain the gag orders, a dentist was not free to explain to a patient that a silver filling was 50% mercury.
That's true. And dentists like Terry Lee stood up, and the late Dwight Cheddar, and dentists around the country stood up. Bill Glaris stood up and stood up to the dental board and said, we're not going to. Mark Briner actually sued the dental board under the First Amendment and won. Most kind of spectacularly was the Andy Landerman, our late and wonderful friend Andy, the former vice president of IABDM, the first vice president once his name shifted from IABD to IABDM. Andy was shut down for years, was an organic farmer and a nutritionist, and wanted his license back, and I represented him. And the dental board was so outrageous in denying the right of somebody to talk about mercury, to have the free speech rights, that the huge momentum developed between 1999 and 2001. And the irony, the great irony was, after the dental board has shut down Andy, by the early 2000s, Andy was back in business and the dental board was shut down. And so
Right, they sunset the dental board.
Yes. We got a new dental board. We got good dentists like Chet Yokoyama and good consumer advocates like Kevin Biggers onto that board, and it shifted. And the dental board had to write the fact sheet that it was supposed to have written years ago, but they had to write one. And people are being given fact sheets, and that started our momentum toward fact sheet laws, aggressive steps where dentists would have to give out information. We had success in the city of Philadelphia and in several of the New England states after our success there in California.
So I have a question. Exactly, since the dental choice, Consumers for Dental Choice was founded, why was it they chose to go after the FDA if we're talking about all these boards?
Right. And well, at the time, our movement didn't have a lot of options. We created many options starting a decade ago, starting around 2009, 2010. But at the time, FDA was the other king of the hill. There were three, I called it the iron triangle, or you might call it the Mercury triangle, the dental boards, which we took out of the game, the FDA and the ADA. Well, the ADA is not going to change. It's a private association. Its foundation stone is mercury. It has patents on amalgam. They will either change or go down, but there's no way to really change a private trade association. The other two are governments, state government, federal government. So we focused on FDA because FDA was silent. FDA did not order dentists to talk about the mercury, did not give warnings. That is until September 24, 2020. And that involved, actually, I'll go through that, but 7 different campaigns before we finally found the right one. But the situation, of course, changed. But in the 20s, there weren't really other opportunities or options. But let me tell you, Don, what happened starting in roughly 2010. Several factors that made the FDA still important, but much less important. That is, it became clear we could even win without FDA. One was, with the end of the gag rule, the huge number of mercury-free dentists. It used to be 3% when we started. 3. It grew to 9. It grew to 27 as the polling. It grew to probably over half, certainly up to half, and probably now over half of the dentists were mercury-free. So one change was the marketplace. Second, consumers really did learn about the mercury, despite the silver fillings deception, which was clearly invented as a deception to make people think it's silver. It was not done in any good faith. We have the historical record, and the ADA was behind it all. But the awareness grew. So we had dentists changing, awareness growing, technology changed. Yes, in 1995 and in 2000, you could do mercury-free dentistry, but it was kind of hard. By 2010, it wasn't hard. It just wasn't hard anymore. The technology meant that you could do composite, you could do ionomers as easily as you could do amalgam if you just wanted to take a couple of classes to learn if you needed to. And of course, the pro-mercury dentists don't even want to take classes. They don't want to open a book. All they want to do is open the ADA journal, which is not a journal at all. So the technology was the third change. The fourth change was the Minamata Convention on Mercury. And that battle began in 2010. I asked a number of nonprofit groups, we use that word NGO, non-government organizations in Europe, to join me in creating the World Alliance for Mercury-Free Dentistry. And between you and me and everybody watching this, it was not world, it was not an alliance, it was an ambition. We wanted to go toe-to-toe with the pro-mercury World Dental Federation, which is kind of like the ADA on steroids, and we had to have a name to match it, and we needed to build. So we created the name. A few European NGOs and I sat down in Stockholm in 2010 at the start of the negotiations and said, let's build, and we did. We've got 60 nonprofit groups, at least from all over the world. We've created centers. The Asian Center for Environmental Health is our Asian implementer that's based in Dhaka, Bangladesh. The African Center for Environmental, that's headed by Dr. Shahriar Hossein. The African Center for Environmental Health is headed by Monsieur Dominique Bally in Cote d'Ivoire. The Latin American Center for Environmental Health, headed by Senora Maria Carcamo in Montevideo, and the European Center for Environmental Medicine, headed by Herr Florian Schulze in Berlin. So we have an incredible organization. In 2010, it was an idea, but back to the treaty, let's make the treaty the fourth point and are implementing the fifth. The fourth point was the treaty campaign from 2010 to 2013, where we got amalgam in the treaty. Vague language to be sure, but we got it in. That's what compromises are about. We got the tools we needed. On the way back from the final negotiations on the airplane, I was on the airplane with the US State Department people. Of course, we were all going back to Washington, and their lawyer, I saw him on the plane. We were talking, he was in a seat, and he said, well, what do you think for your cause? Because it was about all these Mercury issues, of course. And he said, I told him, David, we've got the tools we need, and we did have the tools we need. So the fifth step was the implementation of the Minamata Convention. So all over the world, the pro-Mercury dentists and their association and the waste industry were in retreat as we went on the offensive. So all those factors meant that when it came time to reapproach FDA in 2018, the momentum was there, all the reasons for change. There was no great reason to defend mercury fillings anymore. And over the last 3 years, we've been able to show FDA, and they've used their own scientists. They've had a great, intelligent and hardworking people inside the agency, headed by Director for the Center for Devices, Jeff Shuren, and I salute Director Shuren for what he's done. They were able to step in after this 3-year period and issue the new recommendations.
And what exactly made them make that shift?
Well, the rest of the horses had left the gate. Europe banned amalgam for children and pregnant women and breastfeeding women in 2018. Tanzania, its per capita income is $995 per year. Ended amalgam for children and women of childbearing age. The Philippines ended amalgam, ended it for children, pregnant women, has a 3-year phase-out period. Nepal has a 5-year phase-out period. Moldova ended amalgam. Sweden and Norway did very early, but there were 8 new countries in 2019, 8 new governments that ended amalgam use, either ended it now, like New Caledonia or Moldova, or ended it over a timetable, like Finland and Ireland and Slovakia and Nepal, some that I've named. So Czech Republic. So FDA, the other horses were already in the race. That was reason number one. Reason number two, we put the science to them, and they set up an effort to receive the science to their great credit. Director Jeff Shuren reconvened the Scientific Advisory Committee at our request, but at his initiative, in November 2019. And we brought an incredible team of 15 experts, including a dentist, Dr. Mark McClure, including the former dean of the Meharry Dental School, Professor Reuben Warren, now a professor at Tuskegee, but a former dental school dean, and including physicians, lawyers, child advocates, 2 commissioners, a commissioner from LA, a commissioner from a county in Oregon, all came to testify, some of them by like we're doing, by screen. It was because they were far away, but pharmacists, Carol Peterson. So we really put together an incredible show, if you will, to the scientists, and they agreed. At the end of the hearing, they told FDA, you've got to get this information out, and 2 things: get the information to the public, and 2, protect the most vulnerable. And that's what FDA has done. What FDA has done is just remarkable, because if you go through the people that should not get amalgam on their list, it probably encompasses half of the American people.
And so how did you show that the public was behind this?
Oh, for the kind of petitions that you helped us with at IABDM, Dawn, we had petition campaigns. The most recent was, I think it was 12,000 names or something. The big communicator for us, as you know, is Dr. Joseph Mercola. Our email list is, I don't know, maybe 7,000. His is 7 million, I think. So obviously he reaches people. So he put the word out to sign this petition. and many dentists, but consumers and people all over the world. So FDA had the public weighing in to say it's time to change, had their scientific committee advising after these hearings where we had the 15 witnesses saying it's time to change. And they kind of consider the European Union their rival, if you will. They're, they're the two best known and best staffed device regulators, US FDA and the European Center on Devices, whatever it's called. So Europe was way ahead. Europe had ended it, as I said, for the pregnant women, breastfeeding women, children under 15, and was putting together a plan, which is now moving forward to end amalgam. The European Commission, and they have three, we call it branches, but three power centers: the European Commission, the Parliament, and the European Council. The Commission, which is the government, the agencies, the people that run the European Union day to day, they issued their recommendation in August of 2020 saying, we say amalgam should be phased out. They sent the information and the recommendation to the European Parliament saying you should phase out amalgam. They sent it to the European Council, and they will be presenting legislation in the Parliament. Now, that's just not some Donnybrook outside group like we've done with legislation. It's hard to do. We've done it, but we failed too lots of times. This is the European Commission saying to the European Parliament, here is the legislation, you should pass it. It's the momentum we need. And Europe's on the way, and Europe is definitely, we think in 2022, on the way to passing the law, which will set a date for the end of amalgam. The European Union, even without the United Kingdom, is no small fry. It's 27 countries. Its population is much bigger than ours. It's almost 500 million. Its economy is bigger than ours. It's France, Poland, Spain, Germany, Sweden, Portugal, and so on, and Italy, and so on. And so it's huge. It's huge, and its impact will be worldwide.
Now, Charlie, the IABDM, part of our mission statement is to educate not only professionals, but the public. And so something that you said that I often have conversations with patients about is, just because a dentist is mercury free, it's a choice that he makes or she makes not to place new amalgams. It doesn't mean that that office is mercury safe. It requires specific equipment and a protocol in order to keep the person safe during the process of removing old amalgams in an effort to maybe put composite resins or glass ionomers in. And I know that I want to give a hand clap to Dr. Mercola, because he has been foremost as far as physicians in stepping up and being vocal about not only the fact that mercury is toxic, but that there is a protocol to follow and dentists that you can go to in order to get your amalgams removed. Now, I know that you are a nonprofit organization, and this has probably been the biggest boost for you connecting with Joe Mercola. So I know you'll give a shout out for him.
No, it is, we could not have had the worldwide organization. Our budget, and I want to say first a shout out to the dentists who have been with us, some of them for as much as a quarter century, staying almost that long, 20 some years, and many for a decade. And they've been the sustaining backbone. But to expand the organization worldwide, it would not have been possible without Dr. Mercola, not just his communication, but his matching funds campaign every August, where he steps up and says, whatever amount you raise, I'll match it. And he puts 100,000 on the table, 125,000 on the table. Sometimes he donates more than that. He has allowed us, given us the funding, which you must do. I mean, I've been to 33 countries, and that means we have campaigns in those countries. I don't go in until we have a campaign, until we have a nonprofit group leader. And these women and these men have emerged as leaders in their countries. They, like, I've done in this cause. They've emerged as generally environmental groups, sometimes consumer groups, who have shown expertise in a variety of ways, and therefore we contract with them. We give them money. It's small amounts, but they need it, and they use it, and they use it effectively. But we also had the massive travel budget as the negotiations heated up in the early 2000s to get people all over the world to meetings, to regional meetings, to the international meetings. And all this meant that Dr. Mercola's funding was essential, and his publicity and the authenticity he brought was truly essential. Likewise, I salute the dentists who stay with us, and I say this because, frankly, they don't have dental boards to fear now in the gag rule. Their dental boards still can mess up their lives, but not on mercury, not on mercury fillings, not on mercury putting in, not in taking it out, and safely. And your members take it out safely, and I absolutely agree that dentists, you absolutely have to go to a dentist who not only says she or he is mercury safe, but shows it, has the protocol. There are several protocols, but one of the protocols that really are make it safe and effective. And of course, it's not safe. There's not one surgery that is safe. And no one should ever think when you go into surgery it's safe. And obviously, amalgam removal is not a safe procedure to the extent that you want to guard against everything. You want to guard against that mercury going all over the place. That is what's essential. But these dentists, even though they don't have the dental boards to fear, they've stayed with us because they want to see victory. And believe me, we're on the way to victory, Dawn. We're on the way to victory. And
what about dental schools?
Well, some of them all over the world. The dental schools in Bangladesh are mercury free. Don't even teach mercury, most of them. Dental schools. I gave an award to Our Lady of Fatima Dental School in Manila, Philippines, for being mercury free. Dental schools in the U.S. are behind because the ADA's thumbprint is all over them. Now, NYU changed, New York University, USC, we believe changed. Some have changed, but they're not there yet by any means, because they shouldn't teach amalgam at all, but they should at least teach it last. If the first thing a dentist learns is amalgam, that's how they look at a tooth. They should not have the first thing be amalgam, and that absolutely must change. Now, I will say, though, that the regional exams have changed, and maybe not every region, but most regions, perhaps all, you don't need to show amalgam proficiency, and that's a huge change. It used to be you had to put an amalgam in a patient. Now you don't. You can put in a different filling, and show the proficiency that will allow you to get your license and be a dentist.
Well, certainly this FDA stance, this new stance that they have, will make the dental schools take a second look.
They need to, and let's look at what we're talking about, because we have to do the same initiative, Dawn, that we did after the Minamata Convention. These things are not self-enforcing. Anybody that thinks because the government proclaims something, everybody will just jump up and down and do it was born yesterday. So we have to implement, and we have a 5-person team working on that. We've been meeting each Friday by phone, by Zoom, of course, or phone. And we have to push this thing really, really hard. But the FDA decision, if you look at it, first it says all children. 20-some% of Americans are children. It said children, especially under 6, but it didn't say only under 6, especially meaning all children, I'm going to assume until their 18th birthday. Now, look at the women they're saying don't get amalgam. Okay, pregnant women, we understand. Breastfeeding, we understand. Here's the third one. Planning to be pregnant. They didn't say planning in the next 6 months or year. They said planning. I think that means presumptively, unless a woman says otherwise, it's all young women, because women who are young, they may not want to be, of course, at that point in their life, but to say, are they planning to be pregnant? Yes, they've been thinking about their body, they're keeping toxins out of their body, all the things you want to do to have a body that would be ready to have a baby. So we think it's all young women, and that's a huge percent of the population. Women who are, let's say, 18 to 46 or something. Thinking too of kidney disease. That's 15% of the public. A lot of them don't know it. And are the dentists asking, do you have kidney disease? No. Are they diagnosing it? Of course not. Again, the precaution should be, don't do it, because kidney disease doesn't count. It doesn't allow you to do it. Recommend, not mandates, but recommends, but we think that should be enough to put them on guard. Let's look at a 4th category, neurologically impaired. Anyone with a neurological condition, and obviously autism, obviously the things that are clear neurological, into Parkinson's, any of the things that are brain-based conditions, they should not get amalgam, and that's huge, because these dentists that say they're doing such a favor for neurologically impaired children to give them amalgam, it makes me sick. I mean, I stand up and scream at them, and I've done that. I've been thrown out of hearing rooms doing it. But you add that category, you add those who are mercury toxic, you add those who have a high mercury load, eating a lot of fish. A lot of our Native Americans, for example, have high fish diets, but so do many others. So you start adding all that up, you're probably reaching half the American people. So let's stop using it in half, and then let's go work on the other half.
Yeah, I agree. I want to try to screen share here for just a minute, because I have a picture of you. Let's see if I can find it here. Is that showing up?
Yes, that's in Connecticut. We had quite a movement there, and I'm the guy pointing. It's a pretty young guy there, but anyway, I think it's probably me. But also to the man on the left is Dr. Mark Mitchell. I want to salute Dr. Mitchell, MD and an MPH, excuse me, from Hopkins. He founded the Connecticut Coalition for Environmental Justice after he was the health director for the city of Hartford. He said, when I was a health director, all the lobbying against me was to weaken what I was doing. I wanted to create a lobby group to strengthen what the public health community is doing. And he did that. He became the foremost voice in the country, probably, for environmental justice, the interplay of toxins and the fact that minority communities and poor people and those that live in toxic environments are just much more likely to get sick. Every one of your members knows that already. Mark Mitchell then engineered the endorsement just recently this year of the National Medical Association, the endorsement to end amalgam. The National Medical Association, your listeners probably know, is the Black Doctors of America, the National Medical, the African American Physicians of America. And he also co-wrote and was the lead author of an article, Is Amalgam Toxic to Children of Color? And that had an impact on FDA. In fact, Dr. Mitchell corresponded with Director Shuren during this process quite intensively, and he helped put this over. So as is illustrated by the picture back in, I think that would be 2002 or so, Dr. Mitchell and I have been working together for 2 decades, and now are seeing success as a united team.
Yes, this doesn't happen fast. I remember when Bill Glaros wrote a letter to Dr. Shuren, that was like 10 years ago. So it has been going at a snail's pace.
Yes, those hearings were in 2011 and in Dallas, I believe, and the FDA had hearings around the country. So we basically packed the hearings, and Dr. Glaros participated either by, I think he flew up there, I'm pretty sure, and from Houston, and participated. And you know, I mean, I've read the story. General Grant taking Vicksburg was considered one of the great military genius moves of all time. It's studied at West Point. His entire campaign is considered brilliant. Well, you read the history of the battles there, the campaign. Shelby Foote, the University of Mississippi Civil War historian, wrote a whole book about the Vicksburg Campaign. Grant tried 7 times. This was his 7th strategy to take Vicksburg. One time he tried to build a canal. He had all these ideas to try to take Vicksburg. He failed 6 times. I've gone through this. We've had to have 7 campaigns. This was the 7th one in 2018, creating the Chicago Declaration for Chicago Declaration to End Dental Mercury Use in America, which we announced in Chicago. Dr. Tim Crow was there, the dentist from Chicago, helped announce it. Dr. Peter Orris, the physician, and Eric Urim, who has headed the Chicago Declaration, is part of our team. Our FDA team is Dr. Mitchell in the picture, Eric Urim of Wisconsin, Michael Bender of the Mercury Policy Project. He and I have worked on this 20 years together. And my associate who's been with us for the decade, Sylvia Dove. I do apologize for the phone ringing. I will stop that from happening. I'm very sorry. Excuse me a moment. Do not disturb. Do not disturb. Okay, sorry about that. So it was a computer call anyway. So yes. So Grant, so we had to do seven campaigns, but realize each one shifted the paradigm, because when we returned in 2018 to FDA, we returned from these victories all over the world and these energetic campaigns, and a much weaker American Dental Association, a much weaker World Dental Federation, much more strength in mercury-free dentistry, new technology that made it clear it could happen. Consumers were basically angrier that they weren't ever being told about the mercury by the pro-mercury dentists. Only 12% of consumers are told, according to the Zogby poll, told by their dentist that amalgam has mercury. Only 12%. That you'd think it should be 100% before they get an amalgam. It's certainly not. They call it silver. They lie to the patient, really. So
we could call this the Battle of Jericho, where the walls come tumbling down. And,
it was the seventh day, wasn't it? It was the seventh time.
Yeah. So we're gonna rename it the Battle of Jericho. And I know this is gonna have a huge impact on another thing that you've been focusing on, which is insurance and people's right to choose about what kind of a restoration they will have, instead of being forced because of what the insurance will pay for. And certainly with this FDA ruling, whether the insurance companies like it or not, it will affect them.
Yes, and we have earlier talked to the National Association of Dental Plans in Dallas and gotten an absolute cold shoulder, but now we've got something to talk about. And we got that into the Minamata Convention on mercury. There are phased down, and you can phase out. You can phase down to zero, which countries, as I told you, are doing, but the minimum is phased down, and there are strategies, 9 different approaches you can take. 2 of them address, and I'm going to combine the 2, insurance and government programs, and they're similar. A third party, somebody else is paying, not you. Not you, the patient, is paying, when the third party is paying, and there's where problems are creating. So the Minamata Convention tells countries to stop emphasizing amalgam. That's one clause, and another clause is start emphasizing alternatives to amalgam in insurance and government programs. Government programs are our biggest problem now. Insurance is too. Insurance gives a choice, but you have to pay more, and that's not right. Delta Dental and so on emphasize primacy for amalgam. That's not right. We have to change that. The government programs are actually worse, and by government programs, I mean Indian Health, the prisons, the Department of Defense, our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines are just getting mercury fillings, period. You don't have a choice. You're in the Army, tough beans. Indian Health, horrible.
I remember years ago, Bill Galeros had a patient that she married a person in the armed forces in Germany. Now, in Germany, they wouldn't put an amalgam in her mouth. But now that she's married, she could have services on base, and she got an amalgam placed. And then they were transferred here to the United States, and she was asking for the amalgam to be removed. But you're right, our military, hopefully this will have a trickle-down effect. Granted, it may take a while, but think how many women are in the military or are spouses of military.
Absolutely. No, we're going at them. This will take some time, but this is a big priority of ours to change the government programs and insurance. That's where we have to go, because if it's just the 2 people deciding, the dentist and the consumer, or the patient or the parent, we're winning. We are winning, Dawn. The shift is dramatic to mercury-free dentistry. Government programs, we're not winning. Their bureaucracy, the term is accurate. The term bureaucracy is we don't change, and they aren't changing. They're going to change now. Let me tell you, the Bangladesh Army doesn't use amalgam, not ever. Now, who's got more money? I mean, the Pentagon, the Bangladesh, and I have been to talk to the chief. I met him several times. I've been in the compound with the now he's 2-star, then 1-star general, and his boss, the chief medical officer, met with the 2 of them and a bunch of colonels, along with our local Bangladesh leaders, where they wanted to seal the deal. They wanted to finish it, and they did. And the chief dental officer of the Bangladesh Army, who's been mercury-free himself for decades, ordered all new lieutenants, all new dentists that came in, you may never use amalgam. And he gave the existing dentists 2 years. You got 2 years to learn. Those 2 years are up. Not a single amalgam is used in the Bangladesh army. Obviously, not a well-funded army. And it's bigger than you think, because Bangladesh is a peaceful Muslim country, and they do more peacekeeping around the world than anybody, because they're wanted in many countries and hotspots, because they're, say, peaceful, they're Muslim soldiers, and they go in. And so the UN asks them to go a lot of places. So they're bigger army than you might think. But let's look at a big army. The third biggest in the world, India. It's China, US, India. Third biggest. Indian army uses zero, no, none, no amalgam, not a bit. And I talked to the 3-star, the lieutenant general, who was the chief dentist. He's now running clinics in the private sector, and he ended amalgam. And he did it, guess what? To protect his officers and soldiers. The dentists who were his officers, and the enlisted men and women who were the assistants to the dentist doing the work. He said that office was far too dangerous. I was not going to have those mercury vapors, and I ended it. And I said, General, how could you do it? I mean, you've got a bureaucracy in the Indian Army. You must have got the approval up and up and up. He says, I'm in charge of supplies. I quit ordering amalgam. Quit ordering amalgam. Very simple. You know, I just never ordered it. Hey, where's that amalgam? Oh, we don't have it anymore. Okay. So they had to keep filling teeth, and they did fill teeth. So India and Bangladesh have ended amalgam. What's wrong with the Pentagon? I mean, they have no excuse. They certainly can't say we don't have the money to do it. Bangladesh has the money.
Well, so that brings a question, Charlie. If we have science on our side, and now we have the FDA even siding with us, even though it's only on 50% of the population, still they're leaning more towards our bent.
Yes.
We have the EPA that has mandated that dental offices pollute the environment by putting mercury into the water system, so they have to have separators in their office.
Yes,
we are now recognizing that it is an occupational hazard for dentists with coronavirus. People who used to laugh at us for our masks that we have, our gas masks, are now wearing the masks. So what is the stumbling block? If we've got all those things on our side, who is preventing our country from being at the leading edge of science instead of trailing?
Well, it isn't the who, it's the inertia. It's the fact we've had to change an entire profession, a profession whose founding stone since 1869 was mercury in the mouth, where they beat out gold, and the competitor and the medical dentists who said using mercury is malpractice. So it's just been the ADA.
No. These other countries are making decisions.
Yes.
What is holding the United States back from making a blanket decision?
Well, they've made a huge blanket decision. They've said amalgam should not be given to children, to pregnant women. No country did it in one leap. Sweden didn't do it in one leap. Norway. They do it in stages. You'd like to say they should just decide, but things just don't work that way in government. Things change more gradually. The European Union is on about a 7-year phase-out period. Even though we've had great success there, it basically 7 + 7, because 2011 was when the hearing started on the consultant's proposal that they hired in 2010. So it's 2011, the hearing started. By 2016, we got the law passed in the parliament in 2018. So from 2011 to 2018, amalgam continued to anybody. 2018, it ended for pregnant women, breastfeeding women, and children, as we know, for all of the European Union. In 2025 is the likely end date, another 7 years. That is, it will be presented to Parliament. We're told by members of Parliament, former members, by the consultants, by the commission, that when they act in 2022 on the law, the phase-out date, the earliest phase-out date would likely be 2025. To say, I don't like that, well, is just to say, you better get in and participate, or it's not going to happen. So basically, Europe was on a 7 + 7 schedule, 7 years to get to children, 7 years to get to a full end. We have now reached the children part, not only the children, the young women, the kidney damage, the neurologically damaged, impaired, the heavy mercury burden, and so on group. We have to expect a number more years before the next step happens, and we just got to dig in. But believe me, the momentum is there, and the momentum in dentistry comes right there in the dental clinics, right there from the dentist in his community and her community, talking mercury-free dentistry, getting the consumer to demand it. You know, some dentists changed to mercury-free because they saw the light, and that's great. There've been great books written. Here's one, A Mouthful of Poison by Dr. Myron Wentz, and your members. Others have written just fantastic books about mercury-free dentistry, this being one of many. Others changed not because they saw the light, but because they felt the heat. The consumers said, I don't want this stuff anymore. So now we got to go in and change the Indian Health, the Pentagon, the prison dentists, and so on. The prison dentists in Maine, by the way, are mercury-free. The Maine prisons are mercury-free. We have a prototype we can say to the other 49 states. Okay.
A member that is listening to this for their certification in order to qualify for that, they are reaping the benefits of what so many have done before them and taken all the heat. I want to know what they can do to help perpetuate change faster.
Oh, sure. They can certainly accelerate it by being the voice in their community, by getting the word to their patients, because their patients have network. I urge them to send, and I've just been writing the dentists on my list in recent days about this individually, one at a time, because I want them to know this. They should get this information to their patients. Their patients probably know it, but to say to their patients, some of them, their patients are real advocates, so their patients will spread it further. They should use the social media that they already use and get the word out to say this is now recommended. Recommended that children pregnant with the FDA has seen the light, has taken the first giant step. It's not the last one, but it's the first giant step. FDA also said quit calling it silver fillings. That's in their recommendations. Say this should not be done. This deceives people. I mean, you know, they've done a lot of stuff here at one time. Realize until this moment, until September 24, 2020, they did that. That's when they issued their recommendations. FDA had done nothing. FDA did not require disclosure of the mercury. They didn't put limits on use. They didn't put they even said they don't know if it's safe for children under 6, but they didn't say don't use it for children under 6. So this is a giant leap from doing nothing to, it's like they came out of the starting block at 100 miles per hour. So, I mean, we got to really say this is the accelerant. So if dentists will say this is FDA's word, and by the way, I don't use it and no one should. If people under 18 shouldn't get it, why should people over 18? If women who are pregnant breastfeeding shouldn't get it, why should a woman before or after that get it? Why should the man get it? Is there a risk of the man as a father? Well, of course there is. There's risk with this mercury. It's omnipresent. That's why we have a treaty. It's the only toxin that has its own treaty. That is, there's treaties about toxins and good ones, like the Stockholm Convention and like the Montreal protocols. But this is the only one dealing specifically with one toxin, mercury, and that being mercury. So that's how concerned the whole world is about mercury. But the largest use of mercury in America, sad to say, is still dentistry. It's also the largest use in Canada. It's also the largest use in Europe. We're not alone. So this has got to change, and I think a dentist can be the evangelist, can be the advocate, can be the information source. Get the word through your social media, get the word to your patients when you advertise, when you advocate on your website, because what FDA has done, you need to get the word out. The ADA will not. The ADA is closing it up. They even told their state associations to take it off your websites. So they're pretending the FDA didn't do anything, but they pretended that the Minamata Convention didn't mean anything, and we beat them there. So the ADA at this convention, it was really funny. They just thought because and the World Dental Federation, they just thought because everyone's supposed to listen to us. So their whole delegation would sit together. They were all white men in ties, just like I am. They looked like me, if you will. Our delegation looked like the world. It was women and men from all over the world, you know, Black and Asian and white and Latino and all kinds of indigenous people from all over the world, women and men, leaders, all ages. We were a diverse group. That's one reason we won. and we're still a diverse group, and we're going to win here. But this is the watershed point, what FDA has done. We've got to keep going. As I say, the European campaign, 7 years to get to end it for children. It took us longer than that, and 7 more. And I think we have to realize it's where we're going. But it is accelerating. The more that don't use it, the more dentists, the more government programs, the more retreating the remnant, the pro-mercury remnant has to do. And we're going to get ready to close here, but I know you won't toot your own horn, so I'm going to toot your horn for you. If somebody wanted to donate money to the cause, can you tell them where they would do that? Sure. You go to our website, toxicteeth.org, and you can click donate. And just find it and donate it. You can also write me if you have questions. Write me directly, Charlie, C-H-A-R-L-I-E, charlie@toxicteeth.org. I certainly hear from dentists and consumers and other health professionals from around the country and around the world. And this is all we do. We are singularly dedicated as a small nonprofit group to one mission, which is ending amalgam, and we are well on the way to doing it. So please continue to help us, the men and women of America. And by the way, it's been Americans, U.S. and Canada, North Americans, who have supported this group. I mean, to your great generosity, to your great benefit, you have supported, starting with Dr. Mercola, but we're talking about so many dentists, so many health professionals, consumers, big donors, small donors. You have given us the resources to work the entire world. And those resources, I will say, have come 99% from the citizens of the United States and of Canada. Charlie, I want to thank you for educating us, and hopefully this will just spread and it will go like wildfire, not like California's fires, but like wildfire, and we'll see all of this come to fruition soon. Well, it's been a mission of first the AABD and now the IABDM for so long. You have many missions on biological dentistry, but you've continued, to your credit, Dawn, you as the executive director for these years, as Amalgam-Free Dentistry being part of that mission. You have a great membership. It's always a pleasure to go to your meetings and speak and to see the educating that you do and continue to do for dentists around the world, because your membership is indeed worldwide. Well, thank you, Charlie. Okay, good. Great. Thank you.